Okay, my name is Cindy Weber, and I was born in Burlington, Wisconsin, USA. My parents were Catholics, very devout Catholics. They went to church every Sunday, and their parents were Catholic too. My parents put me in the Catholic school. So I went to the Catholic school, so that's how they tried to influence me. And they took me to church every Sunday. We went to church, but they didn't really say anything. Maybe we prayed at the table before we ate, but everything I started to learn was when I went into the Catholic school. Well, we were always taught the difference is that we were not Lutheran or Presbyterian or... Okay, being Catholic is, there's the Pope and Rome, and we follow what they say, and we have our own Bible. Yes, I went to St. Mary's Catholic School in Burlington, Wisconsin, and I was taught by nuns. Usually it was a nun who was my main teacher, and we were taught, of course, by the priests. They came in and taught that, and we went to church every morning, and you don't dare to move while you're in church. I went to University of Wisconsin-Madison. I studied political science. So I worked in the Democratic Party headquarters in Madison, Wisconsin, and then I did mostly administrative work, but then after that I got into campaigns and fundraising, and it was a great experience. At the time when I was at the University of Wisconsin, I met a few students here and there who were from Middle Eastern countries. And still, I still hadn't even heard of Islam by the time. I knew little bits and pieces, but I didn't know what you called their religion, and I didn't know anything about it. I knew enough to ask them a few questions is that where the pilgrimage to Mecca is, something like that. Before I did, I had an opportunity to go to Kenya. So I went over there and I became a teacher at a school over there, 250 miles northwest of Nairobi, at a school called Kaptagat Girls. It was a Catholic missionary school called a Harambee school. And I was a teacher there of English. There was a bishop, a Catholic bishop, who hired me, and I taught English, home science, and commerce at that school. It was a girls' boarding school, and I stayed there in 1982 and 1983. I already was Catholic, but that's where I saw Muslims. That's where I started to see Muslims and how they lived their life, and then how it made a real impression on me. The Muslims in Nairobi and the Muslims in that country. I saw that they had a very good family life, and they helped each other. They liked to get married and have families, and the teenagers loved the grandparents, and everybody loves the babies, and just big families. And I noticed that they had a good lifestyle. There was a coup d'etat when I lived there too. In August of 1982, there was a coup d'etat, and there was a whole bunch of looting and smashing everything in Nairobi. And then I saw how the Muslim people helped each other and helped rebuild, their stores and anything that got ruined. So I just remembered that. That's all. So I did have one friend, she was Ismaili, and I remember she had this really beautiful book on one of her tables in her living room, and there was a whole bunch of other stuff on that table, but I asked her, I said, "What's that book?" Because I noticed it was very beautiful, this book. And she said, "Oh, that's the Quran." And I was just oh, because I'd never seen one. So this, by now I'm 24 years old, 25, and I've never seen a Quran. I was just noticed it. So when I came back from Africa, I went to paralegal school in Chicago. Then it seemed then I started thinking to myself, well, there's something wrong in this place. And there's I don't know, just Friday nights were like for TGIF, that's drinking. Means thank God it's Friday, means drinking. Saturday night means have a date. And Sundays were in front of the TV with beer for the football game. And so I just felt like that was just so empty. And there's just something missing. And actually, I remembered the Muslim people that I saw in Kenya, okay? They don't know me, I don't know them. I just only recognized how was their lifestyle, how they lived their life. So that's when I started to get interested, and I'm like, well, maybe I need to change my religion. And so then I just kind of got some books about other religions, and I just still remembered the people that I saw with the good lifestyle back in Kenya. And I just was like, I'm going to check out, Islam. Okay, so I thought I should go to a mosque in Chicago to get some literature or books or any information. So I looked in the yellow pages of the telephone book, where is the mosque? And I found that in right between my job where I was working, and there was a place called the Downtown Islamic Center right in between. I mean, I walked past it every day. It was on the 4th floor of a certain building, so you wouldn't know it was there, but I found it in the phone book. So then I decided Friday night after work I was going to go stop in that place. And so that's what I did, the same week that I looked up what's the address to go to an Islamic center. And so when I got there, there was 4 guys. They were doing a mailing, folding letters and putting them in envelopes and things like that. And I was just looked in the door, and they're like, can we help you? And I was just like, well, I just wanted to get some books or literature on Islam. And they're like, here, yeah, take this, and they're giving me books and pamphlets and stuff like that. And then they said, we're going to pray right now. Why don't you watch us pray? And I was like, okay. And so they said, okay, well, why don't you just pray with us? And so they gave me a scarf to put on, and they put me behind a curtain, but it was like a curtain you can see through. And they said, okay, just try it and follow us, go up and down like this and just do what we do. And I said, okay. And so I did that, and then after that was over, then I was just like, well, okay, and thank you very much. And they go, well, why don't you be Muslim today? And then I said, well, no, I just really want to read this stuff. I want to, just find out. I'm just thinking about it. And they go, oh, well. And they're like, okay, we know. You want to go out drinking with your friends. You want to go out drinking with your friends one more night before you accept Islam. I go, well, I don't drink. Because by that time I wasn't drinking alcohol anymore, because another thing I liked about Islam is that they don't like alcohol. And so already I wasn't drinking anymore for a year before that, because I knew there was something really bad about alcohol. And so they're like, okay, so if you want to accept Islam, there's this other mosque in North Chicago. If you want to accept Islam, go up there, usually about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and there'll be someone there and you can accept Islam. I said, okay. And it was Friday, so I was thinking about going there that Sunday. And then something came up and I went out to lunch with a friend. I didn't go there. So then the next Sunday was coming up, and it's like, I think I'm going to go there. So I had the address, and then on the way there, I got lost in my car. And I kind of started turning around, because it was a part of Chicago I never really had been to before. So I had to stop my car and get out the map and look which way I turned. This is, no GPS then. This is 1987. So I looked at the map and I figured out what I was doing wrong. And then I turned and I went, and then couldn't find any place to park. But then I remembered very vividly. I found a place to park. There was nothing on the front of that place, so I went in, and then when I got inside the front door, nobody talked to me. and I could see like all these men like from India. Of course, I didn't know there was a Pakistan. Everybody with that look is India, okay? So I went inside and I stood inside the front door and nobody talked to me, and I was just like, oh boy. And you know, I just felt kind of shy to go to those men that were in that office, you know, working away. So finally, one guy asked me, he said, can I help you? And then I was just like, yeah, I said, I'm interested in becoming a Muslim. So they went and ran and brought one other sister who was an American. And then she kind of like hung out with me for, I don't know, half an hour or so. And then another lady who's an American, she came and she said, okay, pray with us first, and then after we pray, you can become Muslim. So I said, okay. And then I just did their prayer, whatever they do. I didn't have a scarf. Of course, they had to give me a scarf and everything. And so then I just followed that, and then she brought her husband, and then her husband said we were sitting in the sisters area, and then he said the Shahada, and I repeated it after him. And then that was it. I was Muslim right there. In April 1987. I just started to learn more and more about Islam. I attended tafsir classes. And the tafsir became like very dear to me. I just, till this day, just love to know the meaning of what the Quran says. So I went to tafsir classes, and those were just fantastic. And I just started reading more books and praying 5 times a day. And then after 3 months, I decided that hijab was for me. And then I started wearing hijab like 3 months after I accepted Islam. And then that's when I lost my job at the law firm. I was still working at the law firm in downtown Chicago, and then I decided I was going to wear hijab, so I went to work with it on. And then I knew that when I did that, I'd have to write down everybody's comments. So I have a list somewhere here around my house of what everybody said when they saw that on my head. Okay, some people were like, oh, you know, that's great. I mean, it's Chicago, it's like liberal. And other people would say like something kind of real off, you know. And so after about 3-4 weeks, on a Friday afternoon, one of the managing partners of the law firm called me in his office like 4:45, 15 minutes before going home, and said that they were sorry, but they have eliminated my position at the law firm, and that this was my last day. So, took my stuff out of my desk, and that was it. Left at 5 o'clock. Well, I had mixed feelings. It was, you know, after going to work like for so long and like being in an office and not outside all day, in a way I liked that because I was going to have some time off. And in a way I was, you know, like really scared because I didn't have a job. But I got hired at Beatrice Corporation across the street from that law firm like in the next 2 weeks. I got hired for another job. And they made a praying place for me. They had no problem with the hijab. It was just a blessing. Okay, after I got to start to know Muslim people, I found out that they're very divided into their own countries. And that I was a complete outsider, almost like not welcome in any of their cultures. Okay, and I found out that they had separate mosques. They pray only with people of their country. Usually, there would be sometimes a small mix of a few other people, but there would be like a majority of like who attended certain mosques. So that was what my impression, that's the impression I get. I had no idea, I didn't know Muslim people before I accepted Islam, and then that's what I found out that they have there. And that's what I got to know about the Muslim people, and that I was an outsider, and they wanted to just like get married with people of their country. I started praying immediately after I became a Muslim. And it was Ramadan also like 3 weeks later after I accepted Islam. And even they asked me, they're like, are you sure you want to be Muslim? Because we're going to have our holy month of Ramadan of fasting, like in 3 weeks. You sure you don't want to become Muslim after we finish our month of fasting? I was like, no, I'm sure today that I want to become a Muslim. So, yes, I started praying, and then right away was fasting after that. Well, I found that praying 5 times a day, it's good because you, instead of focusing so much on this world, you take a break and you focus on asking God for something, on your hereafter, and just like just changing your mood, the praying does, because you make wudu and then you pray, and it just it changes you, and then you can like maybe have a different, if you were like having something bad going on, maybe that can change the way you were feeling about something bad, or just change, just a change. It like refocuses you. That was my experience with praying. It is my experience with praying. It was like kind of like I didn't know if like I could do it, but I did it. I did it. I mean, I did it every single year for 25 years, every single Ramadan. I like fasting. Even now, I look forward to fasting even when it's hot, because I found out that the Sahaba, when it was hot, when they were fasting, they liked it. Okay, well, after I became Muslim, I would say that my family probably thought that this is just another one of my crazy ideas, because I had already gone, to Kenya, to Africa, and so they, thought that was crazy. And then this came like, it came like 4 years after I lived in Kenya, but they probably thought it was just one of my crazy ideas, and I was probably just going to forget about it later on. But now it's been 25 years, and I didn't really have any trouble with my family at all. After September 11th, 2001, then they started making little derogatory remarks. The most impressive thing about Islam to me throughout the years is that it's a complete way of life. You know exactly what to do with your time. You wake up and you pray, and then already it's the sunrise, and you should go ahead and like do your work. And then it comes all the different prayer times, and you know exactly what to do with your time. There's a way for everything. And the Sunnah of the Prophet and the Hadith, they just tell you, explain everything in every aspect of your life. It tells you what you're supposed to do. And that's what I like. There's focus, and you know what you're supposed to do. There's guidance the whole way through. That's the most impressive thing to me. I started putting all my Islamic ideas into action. So the first thing I did was, there was a refugee community that was coming here in Dallas. 1999, the Kosovo people were coming. And there was like 1,000 of them coming to Dallas area. And the original lady that I had worked with, the Bosnian family, she went and worked with another organization, and then I got left with all the Kosovar families like by myself. So I ended up like helping a ton of those families. That took like 5 years, like in their resettlement process. Then after that, the Somali Bantus were coming from Somalia, and they were like 99% Muslims. So Catholic Charities called me, and they said, you better come, we're having a meeting. There's this big group of people coming from the camps in Kakuma, Kenya. Because they knew I had already worked in Kenya and stuff like that. So I went to the meeting, and then that was it. And then all those population of people were coming. And now I'm like the African specialist, and I do help refugees with resettlement from all different countries. I plan on building more schools in Africa, inshallah. The first time I went on Hajj was in 1991. I became Muslim in 87, so I was like really excited to do all the pillars of Islam. Of course, seeing the Kaaba for the first time was just like, an out-of-body experience. So it was fascinating. I had a great time. I ended up with the Saudi group because I'm really glad that I went. And I made dua that I could come on Hajj with my kids in the future. Just made dua while I was there. And 15 years later, I went on my second Hajj with my husband and children. And it was another awesome experience. I don't know how else to describe it. It's really hard. You become like a praying soldier because you pray so much. Because I'm like a convert, I still feel like sometimes like I'm an outsider looking in. And it should be the same thing as how I noticed Muslims. I noticed their good behavior. I didn't notice them in any other way except how they behaved very good, very polite, nice manners. That's how I think Muslims can spread Islam. And they have to get out there and they have to be involved in the society and not close their doors and not just do things with people of their culture and their country. They really have to get out and mix, is what is my advice to Muslims, how to spread Islam. I would like to say to the people of Turkey, you have a wonderful, beautiful country. Keep doing what you're doing. And I love Turkey. I love the people. And I wish everyone there a very happy and blessed Ramadan.